morning, everyone. I'm Asmita, Center Head at Jamshedpur Management Association, and I welcome you all on behalf of JMA to this B.A.K.E session where we aim to share business acumen and knowledge by experts. Today's talk is on multiplying cash flow through TOC, Theory of Constraints, and we are privileged to have Ms Ira Gilani, Director Goldratt India, as our speaker today. Welcome, Ira ma'am, again.
Thanks, Asmita.
So I would like to share a brief introduction of Ms Gilani. Ira Gilani is a management consultant with over 16 years of experience across pharmaceuticals, apparel, aerospace, steel, communications, and technology sectors. Prior to her role as director at Goldratt India, Ira was a consultant at Accenture Strategy. At Accenture, she worked extensively with Indian as well as global clients. Ira is an MBA from IIFT New Delhi and economics graduate from Lady Shri Ram College, New Delhi. Ira is a TOCICO, Theory of Constraints International Certification Organization certified expert. She has been trained in TOC thinking processes at Goldratt's Odyssey program at Netherlands. She has been practicing these tools for over 10 years and has conducted in-house workshops at companies such as Sanofi, Flipkart, NTPC, Tata Advanced Materials Limited, Airtel, Mahindra and Mahindra, Kotak Mahindra Bank. She has recently been appointed as a board member for APAC region for ISCEA, International Supply Chain Education Alliance, and will be contributing actively to shaping trends in supply chain management, sharing knowledge of emerging practices. Today's session, we are planning to make it interactive. Participants can respond in the chat box or use the raise hand options to respond. Once again, welcome Ira ma'am. I would like to hand over the session to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asmita. A very good morning to everyone. So, Asmita, can I share now? Your slide is currently being shared.
Yes.
Okay, I think I can do it now. Okay, Asmita, please tell me if you're able to see this.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. So today's topic is multiplying cash flow through TOC methodology. Now, I'm quite sure that many of the participants who are attending this today have either been introduced to the goal at their organizations. I know there are people from Tata Steel here. Many of the Tata companies have adopted TOC holistically. Many of you may have read the book The Goal and come across TOC. So can I just request everybody to type in the chat box if you have read the goal? You can just write yes in the chat box and Asmita can share the responses with me. Any responses, Asmita?
Mr. Pankaj Kumar says yes. Ravi Gilani is saying yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now, based on the goal, many of you may have the understanding that TOC is applicable only to operations. However, that is just a part of TOC's application. It is a fact that TOC has had a lot of successes in operations in manufacturing. But there are certain other aspects of TOC which are not as well known. So the main thing in TOC is that it is a holistic thinking methodology. So the TOC thinking processes which are underlying this entire methodology, which we've come to know some of the solutions in operations. There's drum buffer rope in project management, there's critical chain project management, but underlying all of them, there is a very simple cause and effect methodology. And I will actually give you a brief background. So Dr. Goldratt, who was the author of the book The Goal, of course, the founder of TOC, he was actually a physicist by qualification. And one of the simple things that he worked on was he said, look, in hard sciences, you don't have conflicts. If there is a conflict, scientists work to resolve the underlying assumptions. So at a very, very broad level, TOC is simply about challenging those assumptions. Now, the book, The Goal, which many of you would have read, let me give you a bit of a history. So, this book was written in the early 90s. So, at that time, Dr. Goldratt was part of a software company. He was founder of a software company which provided a production scheduling software. It was called Optimized Production Technique. And software was doing fairly well at that time also. It had early adopters, companies like GE, Philips, Kodak, and it was selling for $1 million or so at least, which was, I mean, you go back to the 80s, it was fairly expensive at that time as well. So their software was doing well, the production scheduling software was doing well, but Dr. Goldratt and his team felt that it was not doing as well as they would have liked. So, to popularize the software, Dr. Goldratt wrote this book, The Goal. It's a very interesting novel. It's written as a business novel, yes. And I would encourage you to pick it up and read it if you have not done so already. So it is the story of Alex Rogo, a plant manager who is given 3 months to turn around his organization. Otherwise, they'll have to shut the plant, people will lose jobs, so on and so forth. So it is actually, the goal is the journey of Alex Rogo and how he, through interactions with his college professor, he actually comes across some things which help him identify, which helps him open the knots of the puzzle. So that is where the methodology of TOC, the 5 focusing steps, which many of you would have heard of, actually comes about. So now something very interesting happened. The book started doing very well. The book became an overnight bestseller. Dr. Goldratt became a celebrity. He started receiving a lot of fan mail, and people told him that we read the book. It was really interesting. We could relate to it. We have the same finance guy in our company. He doesn't let us do anything. So all kind of candid feedback. Now, Dr. Goldratt also found out that a lot of people told him about the results that they could get just after reading the book and applying some of the principles. And these results were fairly significant. They were significant improvements. And this made Dr. Goldratt wonder that what is it that a $20 book could do, which $1 million software was taking much longer to do. And one of the things that they realized was that during a software implementation, what happens is that teams get so caught up with the logistics of implementing the software that they actually do not understand the underlying logic. When people read the book, they understood the underlying logic, and they were convinced that certain methods would help them bring about these improvements. They were able to do it on their own without any support. And this kind of led Dr. Goldratt to think about what is it that they should do, how they should take these things further. So at the same time, another interesting, fortunate or unfortunate thing happened. Dr. Goldratt's software, which was the original idea behind all of this, the sales of the software started going down. And Dr. Goldratt was fired from the company which he had co-founded. And that is where he began his journey of developing the theory of constraints body as a knowledge. And over the last 30, 40 years, it is not just been restricted to operations. It is a holistic philosophy which applies across different areas of management, be it supply chain, distribution, operations, managing cash flow. We in all our work that we do, our prime focus is on cash flow, and that is what I will try to spend time on today. So I would definitely recommend that you read this book if you have not done so already. So there is something very interesting. There is a conversation between Alex Rogo, the protagonist, and his professor, old college professor Jonah. And Alex Rogo is talking about how some installing some robots in the company help them increase their productivity. So Jonah says, really, you are making 36% more money just from installing some robots. So he says, no. Let me be clearer. 36, only one department where we had robots had that 36% improvement. So Jonah says, look, then you did not really increase productivity. And the reason for that is, if the goal of the company is to make money, or the goal of the company is to make profit or free cash flow, then something can be called productive only if it adds to that. And this is one of the things I think the book really simplifies. And uh, thanks to the uncertainties in the last 2 years, I think there is a definite recognition which companies have brought in on the aspect of managing cash flow, which over the years has really been missing. And I think this is something which organizations are definitely taking more seriously now because of the uncertainties that we have seen in the last 2 years. And be it in the supply chain, be it on the demand side, there has been a lot of volatility in the last 2 years. And that has really brought focus on cash flow. And as a consultant, as somebody who is helping companies do this, it is very, very heartening for us to see that some of the companies that we were working with, because our focus has always been so much on managing cash flow using some of these simple concepts of TOC. We did find that many of them were very nimble and agile in taking decisions during the pandemic. So, during the last 2 years, situations have changed at a very rapid pace. Some one day commodity prices are extremely high, one day they are falling down. So, these companies have been able to take very quick decisions because one of the prime parameters that we look at in each of these companies is the cash flow. So I'm going to share an example here with all of you. So this is from Jindal Steel and Power Limited, one of our clients, and they've been following TOC principles for the last 5 years, and they've been able to release a lot of cash through their business and used this to actually reduce debt, and the company is now focused on becoming a debt-free company. So before we go further, I would like to just share a quick video. In this video, Mr. Naveen Jindal, chairman of JSPL, is in conversation with Mr. Ravi Gilani, founder of Goldratt India. For those of you who don't know, he happens to be my father. And they're just, it's a conversation about what are the kind of things that they changed, what were the assumptions that they challenged. And I think you will find it very useful and you will be able to have some takeaways for your own business, hopefully, after seeing this. So Asmita, I'm going to stop sharing the slide right now and then I will share the video. Do tell me if it is visible.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Navinji. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Gilani. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible. The audio could be increased.
Okay, I'll increase the volume. Tell me if it is okay.
Yes, the last quarter has been
Yes.
the best quarter that we've had in the last 3 years, I would say. And thanks to you, thanks to your team, thanks to all of them who have taught us the basic principles of TOC, and we've been following them religiously over the last 2 years. And that has really helped us to get these amazing results.
Navinji, I'd like to understand what was the reason when you started TOC? What were the conditions that prompted you to look at TOC?
Mr. Gilani, JSPL used to be the most profitable steel company in the world for its scale of operations. From a period of 2005 to 2009, a 5-year long period, Boston Consulting Group rated JSPL as the greatest wealth creator in the world across metals and minerals, and second greatest across all the sectors. So from being a very profitable company, and we had huge expansion plans, we were expanding, investing billions of dollars every year. Suddenly in 2014, we had a big shock where the Supreme Court of India cancelled all the coal mines, all the coal blocks that we had based our projects on, not only for us, but for the entire country. And that was a big blow. Not only that, we had to pay almost $1 billion in additional levy. So, and that was a period 2014, 2015, 2016, which was really challenging for the steel industry. So we got all our coal blocks cancelled. So our fuel source, because we had based our steel making technology based on indigenous coal, so that got cancelled, and then we had to pay this $1 billion in additional levy to the government, and on top of that, the steel markets went down. So it was a perfect storm, and from the most profitable company, we started to make huge losses, almost $500 million losses every year. So then just a matter of chance that I was sitting with a lady on way to Mumbai, and she started talking to me, and she started talking to me. I asked her what her husband does, and she spoke to me about TOC. And what she explained to me about TOC made a lot of sense to me. So as we got down, I requested her for her husband's number, and then I contacted him, Mr. Sudhanshu Saraf, and then he spoke to me about you. That if you want to implement TOC in a company, that Mr. Gilani is the best person in India to contact and to work with, and that's when we invited you to our office and we discussed. And I think since then we've never looked back. It's been extremely interesting to interact with you, to get all the training that you did, where we involved each and every one, from starting with watching the video, the goal, and reading all those books on TOC. It has been hugely motivational, it has been inspiring, and the results that we got. And I'm very proud to say that JSPL now is the only turnaround story amongst all the major steel companies in India. Unfortunately, in India, only three large steel companies remain solvent. Rest, all the large steel companies have become insolvent. So the ones JSW Steel and Tata Steel, they were already doing very well. But JSPL was really in doldrums, I would say. It was a touch and go case. And only by implementing TOC with all your weekly reviews, focus, because in a steel company, we're always too focused on tons per day, tons per month, the hockey stick effect, and basically concentrating on the price, NSR, not really cash velocity. So what you taught us to focus on cash velocity, on cash score, on weekly reviews, B2B, better than before. So every week that we must do better than the last week. So all these principles, and I know there used to be lots of people who used to be pretty upset also, because when constantly every week they were sometimes pulled up for these things. But it did bring in a lot of discipline. Earlier times, we didn't used to sometimes care about the inventory. We had sometimes too much of raw material, or sometimes had too much of finished goods. But now, following the TOC norms, everywhere we learned how to balance the raw materials, how to have minimum inventory of raw materials, how to reduce the finished goods inventory to the bare minimum. So all these things together, has really helped JSPL to become a very efficient company. Because when I said we used to be the most profitable steel company in the world, we had also become quite inefficient. But now, with all these challenges, they've really been a silver lining in the dark cloud. And thanks to you, your commitment to TOC, and with the passion that you, along with your team, implemented TOC in our company, and all our colleagues, thousands of them at JSPL. They were all hugely inspired by you, and they worked with you to make it happen in JSPL. So then today, we can proudly say that TOC is the single biggest reason for the turnaround of JSPL.
Thank you, Naveenji. So what are the 2 or 3 major tangible results you would say we could achieve at GSPL?
I think the biggest tangible result that we achieved at JSPL after implementing TOC is basically the working capital requirements got much less. We were able to reduce the raw materials and the finished goods inventory. So that really, eased on the working capital. Then we also started to focus more on cash score, on cash velocity, rather than just the price or the profits, or tons per day or tons per month, because these are more meaningful. It is smart to implement TOC and smart to be doing cash velocity and cash score rather than just selling. And if you're not really getting paid for your stuff in time, all your things can go haywire. So I think these are the important things that we achieved.
Would you like to share any cultural change in the organization?
I think there has been a huge cultural change in the organization. Earlier, we used to just sometimes keep on making because we can produce something, without caring that whether we are able to sell that much or not. People in production, they just like to produce. And we sometimes, they always wanted to take long campaigns. Suppose we are making a particular size of rebar, say we're making 15 mm or 16 mm, they would want to just keep on making 16 mm because it's easiest. But then if we had to have all the sizes from 8 mm, 10 mm, 12, 16, 18, 20, 25. So we implemented the DBR, the drum buffer rope. So we implemented all those techniques, and then we have to have all sizes. The ODIF improved, OTIF improved. So all these things we have really focused on, which has really helped us to be very efficient and to be profitable now.
Did it have any impact among the team working of the various units?
Team working, I would say, has definitely improved because everyone realizes that nobody is working uh, independently. We are all working in relationship to each other. So what one unit does impacts the other units. So we always have to see, and then the basic principle of TOC, that whatever is wherever is the bottleneck, either remove the bottleneck or everything else should be subordinate to that bottleneck, so that we do not have the problems with inventory management and stuff.
Thank you. So what are the plans in the near future?
Well, in the future also, we plan to keep on working because these are very basic and sound principles that TOC is based on. So we want to follow them in every sphere of the company, in every sphere of the operations, and then so it's really become a culture in the organization to work efficiently, and so we just want to continue to follow it and learn from it, follow it, and prosper from it.
On a very strong, let me say, financial note, I believe 3 years back, the company's market cap was about somewhere around $0.9 billion. And today it has become, I think yesterday I saw it was about 3 billion.
Yeah, so if we talk about 7, 8 years back, the market cap of JSPL used to be over $12 billion. And then from $12 billion, it came to, you're right, came to less than $1 billion about 2 years ago. And now we are around 3.5 billion dollars. So I'm sure now that now with the next few years, we'll be able to surpass what the market cap used to be 7, 8 years ago. And TOC would have an important role in that.
Thank you. All the very best to you, Mr. Jindal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I hope that gave you some more insight into how we actually do this in the company. Now it's about 11:30. We have a total of 1 hour to go. The way I would like to do is I would actually like to give you insights into some of these measurements. We've been talking about measurements, metrics. He talked about certain things that we need to look at. So I will try to give you these few measurements which you can go back and which can help you in decision making. I will also share recommendation of books and other articles which you all can read going forward. So I hope that's okay with everybody, but if anybody has a quick question right now, I can take it. Maybe 1 or 2 quick question. If you cannot hold it till the end, I can take 1 or 2 quick questions. If there's anything particular somebody wants to know, I will see if I can try to touch upon it. If there are no questions, then I will proceed and we can take out some time for Q&A towards the end. Asmita, if there is a question while I'm covering the content also, people can share in the chat and you can stop me at a logical point. I'll try to address them while going along.
Certainly. So right now, I don't think there are any questions.
Absolutely. So I'll go forward.
Yeah.
When we do this in a physical session or when we have an in-house workshop, we spend a lot of time with each of the companies in talking about their goal. Today, I'm not going to spend as much time. There are a few points here. This will be shared, the presentation will be shared with you. So one of the things that we talk about is that look, for the company, there are three important goals for any company: customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and making money. So what we are saying is that look, when you talk about customer satisfaction, can you have satisfied customers if you do not have satisfied employees? Sometimes in the short run it may be possible, but in the long term, definitely no. So to have customer satisfaction, having happy employees is a precondition. Next, to have happy employees, to have satisfied employees, is making money a precondition? If the employees do not receive increment, if we keep paying them the same amount of money period after period, will they be happy? I'm assuming a lot of people joining today are employees, not owners. So definitely, to keep employees satisfied now and in the future, we have to make money. So to have customer satisfaction, we need to have employees happy. To have employees happy, we need to make more money. So if you choose any of these as the goal, customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, or making money, all three are it's if you can imagine, there's a stool with three legs. It's a three-legged stool. So all of these are dependent on each other. You cannot have one without the other, but making money is the easiest to measure. That is why here, for the purpose of this presentation, for profit making companies, we are assuming that the goal is making more and more money. We are calling it 4M. 4M because it is easy to remember. There's a world-class company called 3M. We want to be even better than them, so we call ourselves 4M. So 4M is the term I'm going to use for the goal of the company, which is to make more and more money. The measurements for the goal, I will come to that very shortly. But I need your agreement on this before I go forward. So there are three financial measurements. There is profit, there is return on investment, there is free cash flow. So now if any company is doing well on these three parameters period after period, the company can be said to be doing well, right? Do you all agree? Please share in the chat. If a company is increasing profit period after period, increasing return on investment period after period, increasing free cash flow period after period, that means the company is doing well. Right. So we all agree with these financial measurements. Now, the second part is that, while all of these are good and, once the finance creates the financial statements, we see these numbers, we hear about them in the news. But the real question is that for the average employee, understanding the impact of his or her measurements on the goal is almost impossible. So one of the first things that we focus on in any organization is financial literacy. And with no offense to anyone here, I would just like to, make the statement that even in the most professional companies, we often find that the top management is not clear about the financials. They have they either do not know the figures or they have misconceptions about the financial aspect. So we're saying here, senior management usually has the sales figure on their fingertips. I think if I ask any of you, how was the performance in January, your sales, your production, you will be able to rattle out those numbers very, very quickly. Many of you would also know about profit. People who come from the finance side, is there anybody from the finance side today? If yes, do share in the chat box. Then I will ask you to validate some of the things that I'm saying. Right. So many people, especially from the finance fraternity or CEOs who are more focused on numbers, would also know about something called return on capital employed. But most top managements are not aware of one very, very important parameter, which is free cash flow. I will very shortly, I will explain how free cash flow has to be calculated. Is there anybody in this group who has not heard of free cash flow before? If you have not heard about it, that's absolutely fine. Please type in the chat box that don't know. If you don't know what is free cash flow, please type in the chat box that you don't know. There's one very, very famous statement of Dr. Goldratt's: measurements drive behavior. Tell me how you measure me, and I'll tell you how I behave. So, what he's saying is that, look, people will behave by the way they are measured. Now, if again, coming back to top managements, finance people, employees, each one of us has a role to play in free cash flow, whether the free cash flow increases or not. But if we are not even aware of the impact of our actions on the free cash flow, how can we impact that? So if you ask the production man, how much did you produce, he will only give you that answer. You ask the purchase man, what cost did you buy at, he will tell you, I got it at the lowest cost, but he will not talk about the quality, he will not talk about the timely delivery. Any of you who have experienced this? We all know very much about our local parameters, our local KRAs. We love them very much. We hold them very close. We can answer all about it. But how did that relate to the overall performance of the company? We are not able to tell. And it is not because we don't want to know, it is also because organizations, over a period of time, organizations have always believed that an organization is composed of different parts, so you manage each of the parts well and the overall system performance will improve. That is a flawed assumption. All of us, all of these different functional areas also interact with each other. So it is also important for us to understand the interrelationships. Any question on this so far? I know what I'm saying may appear a little controversial. Any questions on this? Okay, so we talked about.
Few of the participants have responded that they are not aware of the free cash flow concept.
Okay, no problem. That was just, I just wanted to understand the background. And if you are like most people, you would not know. There are very few people who would know. Okay, so we talked about, I gave you one statement, measurements drive behavior. Now, the second is free cash flow. I will give you the formal definitions also, but, just to kind of help you understand, if you remember, one of the things that Mr. Jindal was talking in the video is that, they used to be very profitable at one point of time. But they also became inefficient in the sense that they did not keep a close monitoring on their inventories and receivables. And the result of that was that their working capital was highly bloated. Now, free cash flow is impacted by these two parameters, profit and changes in working capital. Now, I'm leaving this question here for you to think about. When you increase your sales by 10%, let's say you increase your sales, if your company is doing a sale of 100 today and you increase your sales by 210, what will be the impact on the working capital requirements? This is something which is very important for any company as they increase sales, because what happens is, in proportion to that, typically the inventory and receivables also go up. So if you have not made provisions for that, then your free cash flow actually comes down. And unfortunately, we have seen many companies, both big and small, that while trying to expand, their free cash flow has gone down to such an extent that these companies actually find it difficult to pay salaries on time. They find it difficult to pay their vendors on time. They find it difficult to pay GST on time. And GST you can pay with penalty. Employees they will support you for a while, but your vendors will not support you after a point. So they get into something called a cash constraint. I'm not focusing on that today, but I would urge each of you to go back and look at this aspect. Even some of you, I saw a couple of familiar names also in the participant list. Those of you who are familiar with TOC also, please do understand this aspect of the business as well. It will really add to and augment your knowledge of TOC. So I have a testimonial here from one of the clients. They had a very difficult time during the lockdown of April, May 2020, like many other companies. But they were actually able to improve their free cash score. And I'll obviously share what are the kind of things that we focus on which help them do this. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something which can help each employee understand the impact of his or her actions on the goal of the company. What is the goal of the company for this session? Can anybody type in the chat window? What is the goal of the company that I told you? Any responses? What is the goal of the company?
Ajinkya and Anil say 4M. Mahendra says more profit, make money. Ravi says.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so this part needs your attention while I will be sharing the slides. If you would like to take notes, you can take notes because this is the crux of TOC. So we look at 3 operational measurements. I will explain each of them to you one by one. First, what I would like you to understand is this diagram here. Here we are assuming that our company is a money making machine. Our goal is 4M. We are a money making machine. So we have to look at this. When does money come into the system? So money comes into the system when we make a sale. Now let's say we made a sale of 100. So is this the money that we have made? No, there is a corresponding raw material cost also. So this is a plus you can see, and there is a minus here. So let's say we made a sale of 100, but the corresponding raw material cost was 60. So I have used a term here, pure variable cost. Those of you who have already read Dr. Goldratt's books, you would be familiar with the term truly variable cost. It is the same thing. We have a slight change in terminology for particular reasons over time, but it's the same thing. So pure variable cost. So if I'm selling something for 100 rupees and the material cost is 60 rupees, so the contribution that I have generated is 40 rupees. Right? So this 40 rupees is the contribution or throughput. I will give you the definition of throughput very shortly, but just understand this diagram. Now 40 is the contribution that we generated, but is this the money that we have made? There is also another leakage from the tank. Okay, there is also another leakage from the system in the form of operating expenses. So during this period, when we had a sale of 100, assume that the leakage or the expenses that we had were 30. Okay, so what is the money that we have made? Please share in the chat window. We made a sale of 100, material cost of 60, so the contribution was 40. There is another operating expenses of 30. So what is the profit that we have generated? Sales minus all the costs. So what is the profit that we have generated? Please type in the chat window. So we generated a profit of 10.
10, yeah.
Okay. Now, is this the money that we deposit in the bank? No. There is also something else here. You see, there is a tank at the bottom here. What is this tank now? This tank is investment. I stands for investment, not inventory. Investment is our money, which is there, but it is stuck somewhere in the system. Okay, so this could be in the form of inventories. It could be in the form of receivables. See, this is any money of ours which is due to us. So it is our money, but we cannot use it. So if I have to buy raw material, that receivable is not with me. I have not collected that money, so I can't go and buy raw material. Now, this also includes any other advances that we have given, any security deposit that we have given, say to the state electricity board, any deposit, any say earnest money that we have deposited for government contracts. So any money which is ours, but it is not available with us for use. Okay, so during this period, while we made a profit of 10, assume that this 300 went up to 304. Okay, so my investment, my money which is stuck in the system went from 300 to 304. It went up by 4. So what is the money that I will deposit in the bank? What is the cash that I will deposit in the bank? Profit was 10. Working capital went up by 4. So the cash in the bank is, it will be 6 rupees in this case, right? So while we made a profit of 10, 4 of that got stuck in inventories and receivables. For simplicity, I'm using the word inventory and receivables. I also said working capital a few minutes ago. That's also the same thing. So the cash that I deposit in the bank will actually be 6 rupees, not 10 rupees. This is the concept of, this is how we look at cash. So to the extent that my investment, my money stuck in the system has gone up, to that extent my free cash flow has gone down. I will explain each of these to you in more detail. Okay. So these are, we call these 3 operational measurements. What is throughput? The first thing that I showed you, sale of 100, pure variable cost of 60, so the throughput was 40. Second was investment, the money which is stuck in the system, and operating expenses is the third one. These are those expenses which we will have whether we run the plant or not, whether we sell anything or not. I'll give you the formal definitions here, and these will also be shared with you. So the throughput is always over a period of time. Throughput is realized only once we make a sale. If we have produced and we have not sold, there is no throughput. Okay, so throughput is only generated once we make a sale, and it is always over a period of time. Pure variable costs, for simplicity, I told you it is only raw material cost. See, it would also include commissions and freight. You will see one statement here, and I'll try to explain this to you again very simply. All costs that would be saved if we sell or produce 1 unit less. Okay, so now let's say there is this bottle. Can you all see this bottle in front of me? Asmita, can you see it? So there is this bottle of water, right? So now the pure variable cost for this bottle would be simply the cost of the plastic which is there, the color, the paint which is applied to this, the cost of the cap, the color, any other, if there's a small screw or something, that's all. So if I'm selling this bottle for 10 rupees and the material cost involved in all of this is 7 rupees. So if I don't sell one bottle, I will only save the cost of that material, right? So pure variable cost is just the simple thing which is linked to the sale of 1 unit. Now your manpower cost, power cost, none of those will get impacted by this, right? So pure variable cost is very, very simply just for simplicity, only the material cost, but actually it will also include commissions if you are selling, say, for every sale. So for sale of every bottle, if I'm giving 1 rupee as a commission, that is also a pure variable cost. If I don't sell the bottle, I don't have to pay the commission, right? Same thing, freight is also a part of pure variable cost. So throughput this is the formal definition, net sales minus PVC. The second thing is investment. So all the money which is tied up in the organization. So this includes, like I said, all the inventory and raw material, WIP, finished goods, money which is blocked in plant and machinery. Receivables are also a part of I. The simple definition which I told you was any money which is ours but not available with us for use. So let me, just go back to a simple example of personal life. In our personal life, where is our money stuck? Our money which is ours but not available with us for use. I will give you some example. One example, I don't know if you have that in Jamshedpur, but it's there in many cities. So in Bangalore, where I live, if I have to take a house on rent, typically I have to give, if the rent of the house is 50,000 rupees per month, typically I have to give a security deposit of 6 months. So 50,000 for 6 months, what does it become? 3 lakhs. So if I'm moving to a new rented apartment, I have to give 3 lakhs as the security deposit. Now this is my money, but I have to give it to the house owner as a security deposit. So if I want to use this money to go and watch a movie, I cannot do that because it is stuck somewhere. My money, doesn't belong to the owner, but it is not available with me. I will give you another simple example. So one of my uncles, he lives in Delhi. He's an architect and a freelance architect, and he had done some professional work for one of his relatives. And the relative owed him about 1 lakh or so, which the relative was not paying over a long period of time. And, he kept asking for it. And the relative, one day he got very irritated and said, what is it you keep asking me for 1 lakh rupees? You stay in a bungalow which is worth more than 1 crore and you keep asking me for this small sum of 1 lakh rupees all the time. So my uncle said, look, when my children are hungry and they want milk, I cannot take out a brick from the house and buy milk for them. I need money to buy milk for them. So while he owns this house of 1 crore, but he cannot use that money to actually pay his bills or buy food or milk. So investment for a company is any money which is stuck anywhere in the system, which is our money, but we cannot use it. Is this clear to everybody? I gave you these simple examples so you can relate to it. Is this clear to everybody? If it is not clear to somebody or you have a question, please ask me now because this is very important. If it's okay, then I will move on and I can come back if you have a question. Okay, then the third thing, as I explained, this is simple to understand. Operating expenses. These are those expenses that we will have whether we produce or not, whether we sell or not. So this will include salaries, rent, the maintenance of the office, the insurance premiums that we pay, the money that we pay for CSR activities, employee engagement, all of those will be a part of operating expenses. Okay, so now here's the question. We talked about profit, ROC, free cash flow as 3 financial measurements. Now I gave you 3 operational measurements also, which is TIOE. In TOC terminology, we call it TIOE, throughput, investment, operating expenses. So here is the connection between the financial measurements and these operational measurements. So profit is T minus OE. ROI is profit by I. It's very simple, profit by investment. Free cash flow, the formula is a bit tricky. It is profit minus delta I. Okay. There was a joke recently in one of the webinars. So this delta is not the delta variant. Okay, this delta only refers to the change in investment. If you go back to the previous example, our profit was 10, but our investment had increased by 4. So that delta I, so to the extent, remember, to the extent that my investment increased, to that extent my free cash flow comes down. Okay, so this is free cash flow. Now I do have a couple of examples here for you to understand this, and I'll share the slides. You can go through it in more detail. There's one very simple example. 2 products, The quantity sold is mentioned, the PVC is mentioned. We look at the sales, we look at the PVC for all of this. We calculate the throughput. We add up the total throughput, look at the total OE, calculate the profit. This is very simple, so I'm not explaining this, but you can have a look at it and try it on your own later on. Just take a pen and paper and just calculate this, so you will remember. It's very simple. All it will do is it will help you remember what you've learned. Okay, so now this is something that I want you to do. If you can keep a pen and paper in front of you. You don't need Excel for this. You can do this mentally also. Mental maths is also okay. Now, you can see here we generated a profit of 2.8. Okay, so just remember this, profit of 2.8. Now, during the period when we generated a profit of 2.8, inventories went up by 2 lakhs. Receivables came down by 0.5 lakhs. Payables have remained the same. So what will be the free cash flow generated in the week? Can anybody tell me? 2.8 was the profit. Inventory increased by 2. Receivables came down by 0.5. So what is the free cash flow? Please share in the chat. And Asmita, you can read out the answers. You have to write something. I will not move on if there are no responses.
So Anil says 0.3, Piyush says 1.3, Dipanshu also says 1.3, Ravi says 0.3 lakhs only. Sanjeev has 1.5, profit less 1.5.
I did not. Sanjeev, answer दीजिए ना, जल्दी क्यों मचा रहे हैं? Please write the answer, Sanjeev. Okay, so many of you have got it right. Piyush, Dipanshu. See, I'll explain it. The numbers are written down also on the slide. Inventory went up by 2 and receivables came down by 0.5. So 2 minus 0.5 is the net impact on my investment. So my delta I is 1.5. So while the profit was 2.8, because an additional 1.5 got stuck investment, the free cash flow is 1.3 lakhs. So many of you have got it right. It's absolutely fine. Okay, now I'm going to just add a little bit of twist to this.
Ma'am, there is a question also by Mr. Sanjeev. Profit means, is it operating profit or EBITDA?
Okay, so what is the difference, Sanjeev, if you can unmute yourself and share, when you say operating profit and EBITDA, what do you mean by the two? EBITDA, I understand. What did you mean by operating profit?
Yeah, good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning, Sanjeev.
Ma'am, what I believe the operating profit is the profit that is after reduction of your variable expenditure. That is one type of contribution you can say.
No, so okay, so now thank you for asking that question. I'll just explain here. If you see the profit that we have calculated here, this is after OE also. Okay, so this is the net profit. Okay, let me explain.
Net
I think
profit
you
before tax. Ma'am,
yes,
is it net profit before tax?
yes, net profit before tax. So
PBT,
actually,
is it PBT?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. You have raised a very, very good question. So, when we talked about in the earlier part of the session also that profit, free cash flow, ROI. Now, profit itself has a lot of isotopes. So, when people say profit, there could be different things. There could be profit before tax, profit after tax, EBITDA, EBIT. There's something called cash profit. So there is a lot of confusion which happens. So here, simply speaking, what we are talking about is profit before tax. So one of the things that we also, when we are looking at the operating expenses, we always look at depreciation also as a part of that, because depreciation is one expense which is, you make the expenditure first and it gets booked over a period of time. So it is a very what should I say, it's a very legible expense that we have. So when you look at EBITDA and you're not looking at depreciation, you're not looking at interest, you are actually not taking into account some of the expenses which are very legible and which need to be covered by the contribution that the business is generating. Right? Does it make sense, Sanjeev? So we are talking here about the profit before tax. Okay, so typically when we look at OE, depreciation is also a part of OE. Okay.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt again.
Yes.
Mr. Ravi Jain has raised his hand.
Yes, Ravi. So
Hello,
is
ma'am.
this Ravi Jain from Tata Steel?
Yeah, ma'am. Hope you remember
Hi,
me. We
Ravi.
met in the conference. Yeah, hi, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, please ask.
Ma'am, I just got confused a little bit.
Yeah.
When you said receivables went down,
Yes.
does it mean that because receivables went down, so cash in hand will reduce, na?
No. See, let me tell you. Let's say you made a sale of 100, okay? And you are going to get it after 30 days. Okay? And receivables at the beginning of the period were 100. During this period, we made a sale of 100. So what will if I have not collected anything during this period, my receivables will go up by 100 plus 100. My receivables have gone up. So receivables are at a point of time.
Okay. Now
So
actually I got confused.
yeah. So
Yeah.
When you collect, the receivables
Yeah.
will come down.
Correct.
Right. So
Thank you,
in
ma'am.
this case, receivables have come down. So to that extent, the investment has come down.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. So here are some of the things that we talk about. Now, I do understand that many of you are employees. You may not be able to implement all of these in your company from day one, but I would still urge you to look at this. I would urge all of you to look at this from a point of view of decision making. I'm just going to stop sharing my slide for a minute and I'll come back to this once again. So I would urge all of you to look at this. What is it that we can do to impact the bottom line of the company? So look at what are the decisions that you have to take on a daily basis. Should I accept this order or not? Should I produce this large batch or should I do multiple shorter batches? If you can think, at least start thinking in this direction, that if I do multiple, let's say if I have to do multiple small batches versus one large batch, don't just look at what is the impact it will have on my setup, what is the impact it will have on my efficiency. Look at the cash to cash cycle time also. Cash to cash cycle time also, I'm going to just explain this to you very shortly. Cash to cash cycle time means from the time I put my money in the system to the time I collect from my customers, from the time I pay money to get raw material to the time I get money from my customers, how do I crash that time? Okay, think about it from that aspect. Any decision that you have to make, think about it. Okay, what is the throughput that it will generate? So let's say if there is somebody here in production and you are looking at a new method of doing something which will actually reduce the consumption. Okay, you are looking at a new raw material which will reduce the consumption. So what will it impact? It will impact your throughput. Or you are using a new routing, a new method of doing something. You are changing the charge mix, you are changing the process with which you will get more output. You may get more production per hour, you may get total, an increase in tons overall. So if you're looking at any of that, try to translate it in terms of throughput, investment, operating expenses. You want to buy a new equipment. So the first thing that will happen is our operating expenses will go up. I have to buy a new equipment for 1 crore. So my operating expenses will go up. So now I would like you to assess, okay, with this equipment, okay, today I am producing, say, 200 tons a month. This 200 tons will become 250 tons, just as an example. Now, what is the contribution? What is the throughput that I'm generating per ton? Let's say it is $100 per ton, or since I talked in crores, now let's say it is 100 lakhs per ton. So multiply that. So 50 tons, I will increase my production. multiplied by 100 lakhs I will get, or 1 crore per ton I'm going to get more. So 50 crores I will increase in 1 month. Do you think if you can talk in this language, it will be easier for you to be able to convince your seniors or supervisors when you are asking for something? See, what happens is many times, when we go to our bosses, we go to somebody in the organization, we always ask for money, we ask for men, we ask for some kind of resources. Typically, even if you are asking for more manpower, it will be in terms of money, right? There's an expense to every individual that we are hiring in the company. Now, when our bosses ask us, what is it that you will give in return? We are not able to talk in terms of numbers. So if you can just think about this way of looking at the impact of any change, any improvement on the metrics, I believe it will help you connect the dots better, understand the impact of your actions on the overall performance of the company a lot better. Let me ask all of you this TIOE, have you been able to understand? Will you be able to explain it to one person, in the company who is reporting to you? At least just one person who is reporting to you. Please share. If you have any doubts, please ask. Because I'd rather cover this one thing very well rather than flip through the slides.
Piyush asks, can depreciation be treated as part of OE?
Yes, yes, Piyush, depreciation is a part of OE.
And Ravi has responded yes to your question.
Okay, great. And Ravi himself is an expert in TOC. So those of you, the JMA members can also benefit from his expertise, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm going to, bring back the slides once again. Okay, so these are some of the things that we recommend. I'll just bring up everything. Sorry. So one of the things that the simplest thing to look at is what is our cash in the bank on a daily basis or utilized limits. So, if our CC limits utilization is coming down, that means we are doing something right. We are, we are generating funds internally. That's why we don't have to utilize the CC limits. I understand that all of you may not have access to this information. So that's absolutely fine. But but I would still encourage you to take a step further and do understand these things. Don't just wait for the quarterly results to come when the company sends you some highlights. Do take that step forward, and in everything that you do try and understand where are you impacting the cash flow. Okay, just keep that in mind. I'll give you one very, very simple principle that we have in TOC, which we tell at all our clients, whether whatever improvements we are looking at, whether we are helping them with inventory reduction or helping them reduce their lead time. See, I'll use the simple analogy of water. What happens when water is stuck somewhere? मैं हिंदी में पूछती हूँ, कहीं पे भी पानी अटका हो तो क्या होता है? अगर कहीं पे बहुत सारा पानी अटका हुआ है, बहुत दिन से अटका हुआ है, तो क्या होता है उससे? Wherever water is stuck for a long time, what will happen? Mosquitoes will breed, it will start stinking, right? So in our organization, wherever money is stuck somewhere, material is waiting, things are waiting for approval. Acha, this money may not necessarily be stuck. It doesn't always mean that material is waiting. Sometimes we could be waiting for some approval. We are waiting for some confirmation from customer. Customer order has come, but we have not punched it in the system. Material has come, but we have not got it in the factory. The GRN has not happened for 3, 4, 5 days. All of that is our money which is stuck in the system. Okay, so simply speaking, please think about it. What role do you play in increasing this flow of cash? We don't want material approvals, anything stuck at any point. It is a measure of the inefficiency in the system. Okay, so please do look at this. What can you do to reduce the investment? So which could be money stuck in inventories, receivables, advances, if you have vendor advances that are going through the roof, look at that. Many times, we also do certain other actions like purchasing large quantities of raw material for a volume discount, purchasing large volumes for freight cost. Another thing that we do, for volume discount, freight cost, at least there is some logic in why people are doing it. But sometimes we just give POs for the entire year so that we don't have to so we avoid the clerical work of releasing too many POs. Now, those are things. What are we saving? What are we saving by saying that we will give PO for the entire year for a quantity discount, and then material will just keep coming in and we don't keep a track on it? What are we saving by giving this whole PO for 1 year? Are we saving the time of the clerk who is there in the purchase department who has to give those POs? Think about it. We spend a large amount of money, get stuck in inventories and receivables because we either want to take large orders of customers, we don't want to punch different orders, or we want to give large orders to suppliers and we don't want to keep a track of it on a PO basis. So all of us play a huge role in this when we say, let us get more quantities, let us save, let us have more inventories. Also, I don't want to come across, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that inventories have to be zero. The goal of the company is not to have zero inventory. The goal of the company is to make more and more money. So we don't want a shortage, but at the same time, we also don't want inventories to go through the roof, because many times, there are those things, dead inventory, slow moving inventory. We don't get rid of those things that one day it will be utilized. That one day never comes. Those inventories get stuck at the bottom and you are barely able to realize anything for those inventories. Uh, and I'm talking very, very much about inventories because we have seen companies get into a very, very difficult cash constraint, a very sticky situation because of bloated inventories and receivables. I have not spent a lot of time on receivables because I'm assuming we don't have a lot of people from the sales background. But again, receivables is also an area where for most companies, either we don't have a clarity on receivables, finance has a different number, sales has a different number, what finance calls collectible, sales says ये तो collect ही नहीं होगा, ये तो legal है, ये तो disputed है. So these are certain things that we have seen, certain behaviors which we have seen, and I would urge each of you to correct wherever you think that you have a role to play in money going faster to the bank. Simple. Just look at it this way. What can I do so that money will go faster in our company's bank account? Okay. So another aspect that I'm putting here, I mentioned it earlier, is the cash to cash cycle time. So cash to cash cycle time is from the time we pay cash to our suppliers for raw material until the time we collect cash from our customers. Okay, so a very, very simple example here. So let's say we have inventories of 8 weeks, receivables of 4 weeks, and payables of 6 weeks. So what is our cash to cash cycle time in this case? Any responses, Asmita?
Not yet.
6 weeks.
Absolutely. 8 plus 4 minus 6. Inventories plus receivables. So inventories and receivables is my money which is stuck in the system. Payables is the money that I owe to my vendors, right? So that credit that I have to subtract that. Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Suresh asks, is receivables are the cash received for the serviced orders?
No, see, receivables are, like I said, let's say I made a sale of 100 rupees today and I gave a credit of 20 days. Okay, so when is it due? Today is 10th February. I gave a credit of 20 days. So when is it due? Suresh ji, can you answer? So I made a sale of 100 today and I have given a credit of 20 days. So when will my customer pay me? On latest by 2nd March, the customer will pay me. So till that time, it will show on my book as a receivable. This is my money which somebody has to pay to me. Let's say your friend took a loan of 500 rupees from you today. So he has to pay you that loan back, right? So it is a receivable for you. Somebody else owes you that money. Is it clear? Is it clear, Suresh?
Yeah, he said it's clear.
Yes, madam. Clear,
Okay.
clear. Thanks.
Okay. Let me just ask, Suresh, what is your background? Where are you working? Just share with me briefly.
Yeah, I'm working for Tata BlueScope Steel as an engineering manager. So
Okay.
I'm looking after engineering department, not a financial person.
That's okay. Everybody should know, right? We all manage our house. We don't say, when we take a EMI for buying a house, that I'm not a finance person, right? We manage EMI at home. We manage our monthly. So absolutely, there is this course called finance for non-finance people.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
actually, that doesn't make any sense. All of us are finance people. Okay,
Yeah.
so see, my request is do think about these lines, because obviously, as an engineer, you do impact the cash to cash cycle time. There's no doubt about it. And I'm glad you asked this question about receivables. See, you are spending this time here, so you might as well learn something rather than just brush it out saying this is not my department. Okay, one more important question for everybody. Um, Now, let's say my credit card company, they have given me a bill on 1st February to be paid by 28th February. Okay, so 1st February, I received my account statement.
Hello, ma'am.
Sorry?
Yeah, this is Mahendra from Tata BlueScope.
Yes, Mahendra.
Just talking about cash to cash cycle. Sorry to interrupt you in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, when we talk about if you sell the product at some time, means 6 weeks, the money is going to get. But
Credit. You're giving a credit of 6 weeks.
yeah. So if you talk about the inventories, having a lot of inventories,
Mm-hmm.
if are we going to consider that inventory, which is a total? If we sell the product and say with the 6 weeks lead time or something like that, receivable season 6 weeks. If I produce the product and we sold that product,
Yeah.
so that period, raw material, you said 8 weeks.
Yeah, so 8 weeks. I'll explain. This is everything RM, WIP, FG. So let's say I bought the material on 1st January. Okay.
Yeah.
That went into production on 15th January. By 15th February, it was in FG. Then 2 weeks it waited in FG. Okay. So this whole period becomes 8 weeks. 2 weeks it was in RM form, 4 weeks in WIP form, then 2 weeks in FG form. Okay. So here I have just, given you a simple example. So for the company as a whole, also we can see, look, what is your daily consumption? Let's say your daily consumption is 50 lakhs. And at any point of time, you have, say, 5 crores of inventory. So how many days of RM do you have? Daily consumption is 50 lakhs. Okay, as of today, let's say as of 10th February, I'll keep it simple. As of 10th February, I have a raw material inventory of 5 crores. So how many days worth RM do I have? For 10 days, worth 10 days of consumption.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, it is a different thing that this raw material, it is not completely balanced. So it is actually never there for 10 days. You may not even have full kit for 3-4 days. Something is yet to come. Right.
Okay.
So our focus at every point of time, and today I have not gone into the details of the TOC applications, is how do we balance the inventory? So, those are tools. I have not talked about it, but when we focus on how do we reduce, we have some techniques, some tools for reducing RM inventories, for reducing WIP, that is lead time reduction, again for managing FG inventory. All of these solutions are there in TOC. But primarily the thing that I want to focus on right now is what are the kind of behaviors that we take. So as a purchase person or as an operations person, when we are looking at a vendor, I'm going to stop sharing my slides because I want to talk to all of you. When I'm getting something, I do we ever talk about reducing the minimum order quantity? Do we ever talk about getting smaller lots of everything rather than getting, we end up getting large rakes of things of certain raw material and we don't have money to buy some small reductant, I mean consumables. I have seen this happen across companies where for rakes we have to give money. When it comes to PSU companies, we have to give money. For exports, we get large quantities from of imports. We have to give all of them money because they hold us to it. But when it comes to paying small suppliers on getting some forging, some outsourced parts, we are not able to do that coordination. So it's like, how do I explain? You have got the elephant, most of the elephant, but a part of the elephant's tail is missing, so you cannot go in for production. So we have seen this devastating behavior happen everywhere, which is why I'm emphasizing on some of these things about balancing inventory, getting inventory as per requirement, taking small batches of production as per what customer wants. I mean, you also heard about Mr. Jindal talking about some of these things.
Yeah.
So my request to all of you is, please think about these things. Where is it? What role can I play in money going faster to my company's bank account? This does not always mean reducing the cost, reducing the purchase cost. Focus has to be on cash to cash cycle time. We generate that money faster, that money again gets flowed back into the organization for generating more money. So please don't just focus on cost reduction, that मैंने cost यहाँ पे save कर ली, notional cost यहाँ पे save कर ली. Please look at it from a throughput lens. Cost तभी save होगी जब आप if you are selling that product, all that you are producing. If you are selling a small part and the rest of it remains in inventory, then you have not reduced any cost. You have just added to bloating the working capital.
Yeah, it's clear. Thanks, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think it's almost time. Maybe Asmita, maybe we can take one more quick question if that's okay.
Certainly, ma'am. People are raising their hands. So there's one question that is posted earlier, so I'll just repeat that. Mr. Mahendra Kulkarni had asked, is this action called in old business languages Parata system?
So to be honest, I have not seen a Parta system. Some of our clients, one of the things that we do is we also create a weekly report. Right now, because you are all joining as individuals, I have not talked about that format of that weekly report. So when we look at that weekly report, we look at all of these things. Yes, we do look at all aspects of cash coming in, going out. Some people have said that it is similar to a Parta system, but I would say, let me put it this way. So I think we don't just look at free cash flow. We also look at certain other operational parameters also, like our on time in full should keep increasing period after period. We also look at some other aspects which are very critical for the business, such as safety, such as quality, first time right. So people have said that it is similar to a Parta system. Now I have not been exposed to a Parta system, so I would say there are some similarities, but we also look at certain other aspects which are critical. So for example, on time delivery can give you a competitive advantage in the long term. First time right, establishing a very high performance on first time right, which of course impacts your cost, it impacts your positioning in the markets. Those are also some of the things that we look at. So we do have a weekly report system that we look at, but right now for each of you, I'm not asking you to look at that I'm only asking you that in your own role, please see what is it that you can do. Is it clear?
I think so, ma'am. So
Okay.
Mr. Sanjeev has raised his hands. Yeah, Mahendra response yes.
Okay.
So Mr. Sanjeev and Mr. Piyush has raised their hands. Sanjeev ji, you can go ahead.
Why don't both of you share your questions quickly so I can address them together, hopefully.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as rightly told by you that free cash flow is profit minus delta I, that is investment. And in simple language, you understand that operating profit minus capex. So my question is that although capex is a balance sheet item, but capex also involves a lot of things like inventory, which is also a part of working capital. So why you are excluding? Why you
So yeah, Sanjeev, actually in free cash flow, we look at, if you know, if you look at in any finance textbook, we look at both. Actually, it is usually net income minus capex minus change in working capital, both the aspects we look at it. Okay, right now, for our purposes right now, see, as a company, we don't do capital investments on a daily basis. So here we are looking at the operational free cash flow. We are not looking at free cash flow from any investing activities. We are only looking at the operational free cash flow. So on a daily basis, these are the things that we impact, which is obviously our inventory, receivables, working capital. Sorry, inventory, receivables, payables. The strict finance definition is takes into account both capex and changes in working capital. Okay, so both are relevant. So let's say, you know, if I during this period I generated an operating free cash flow of 100 and I made a capex of say 90 rupees. 100 rupees I generated operational free cash flow and I made a capex of 90. So actually the cash in the bank would only be 10 rupees. But right now, because see, each of us do not impact these capital investment decisions, we don't make these decisions on a daily basis. Right now, we are only looking at the operational aspect of the free cash flow. Okay.
Yeah, got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. One more. Yes. Go ahead.
Can the interest on working capital can be treated as a operating expenses?
हाँ, बिल्कुल. So interest on working capital will be a part of operating expenses. Correct.
But not the interest on the loan which we have taken for our run install the company.
Again, strictly speaking, so both of them are a part of it. Now, what happens is, you know, sometimes when organizations do this, they say that, look, employees don't have a role to play because this is a decision that the company has taken on taking debt. So sometimes they don't look at that aspect. But frankly, see, if you reduce your working capital and that cash is released, we will not keep that cash in our bank account. We will actually use that to repay the loan. So ideally, to dekhna chahiye interest bhi. But because many times, you know, companies believe that, okay, you know, all employees do not have direct control on it. Sometimes they don't look at it. But our opinion is that we should look at it. Even if employees don't have a role to play in it, it is important that they look at the real picture, and you will be surprised at what employees can actually suggest, you know, to reduce that. And of course, working capital is the main way through which we will impact.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am, Mr. Anupam has raised his hand.
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah, so hi. So I think Asmita will make this the last question,
Sure.
but you can reach out to me later if they would like.
Definitely.
This is Anupam from Tata BlueScope. I'm based in Calcutta and heading East and export sales.
Okay.
Sometimes back, we in our company we tried to implement TOC, right? And it was something around 4-5 years back or 6 years back. I want to make it crisp. We failed that time, and it was basically to control the inventory. And the reason behind was our most of the orders are actually made to order. Means once it is placed, then only we know what kind of inventory is needed, what feed is needed, what paint is needed. And at that time, we've realized that inventory accumulating or stocking, that was not at all helpful in such kind of a business where each orders are different. So
if you're a big to order
can you give a little idea on this, whether it will be something we can work out again?
Okay, so see, simply I'll have to understand exactly what is it that you implemented. I've actually recently been in touch with Mr. Chetan Tolia also, and you know he's been sharing his TOC experiences also with me. See, first we will have to see if it is a make to order business. Like you said, why do we need to store inventory of anything, be it raw material or FG? Now, first I'll talk about the FG. FG we will only need to keep as inventory. Okay, just hear this carefully. If the customer's tolerance time is less than the time that it takes for us to supply it to him, whether it is to produce and supply or just transport, whatever way. So, let me give you some example. This is for everybody of customer tolerance time. See, if I have to go and buy a loaf of bread, I will go to a shop close to my house. Okay, I will go there. I'll ask the guy, give me Britannia bread. If he says Britannia bread nahi hai, I will not wait. I will just go to the next shop and buy Britannia bread from there. Right. So my customer, as a customer, my tolerance for time for buying bread, which is something which is available off the shelf, is 0. Okay. Now, second, now I have to schedule an RT-PCR test. RT-PCR, I don't expect that I schedule it within 15 minutes. The guy is here. Maybe 5-6 hours is comfortable. Maybe up to 12 hours I'm willing to wait. Beyond 24 hours, I will not wait for an RT-PCR. So for an RT-PCR, my tolerance time is, say, 12 hours. And like I said, this is applicable to both product and service. RT-PCR is a service. It is not a product. Okay. So this is my tolerance time. Now, third, when I go to buy a car, maybe a car, if they say that the car is not in stock, I will be willing to wait a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. Maybe I will not be willing to wait for 2 months. So what we have to understand is what is our customer tolerance time. Now everybody says कि हमारे customer को तो जल्दी चाहिए, हमारा तो customer wait नहीं करता, हम order मांगते हैं, देता नहीं है, देते हैं तो एकदम से मांगते हैं. Now, that is where I think as marketing people, as sales people, we have to have a very, very clear model and a very clear agreement on the terms that, look, this is the lead time that we will offer standard. And then let's say you agree with your customers on a standard lead time of 4 weeks, Anupam. Okay, now the question is, if I have the capability to procure the raw material, to produce and to transport end to end everything, if I can do all of this in 4 weeks, I will not procure raw material and keep it, right? I will not procure raw material. I will not keep in form of FG. But if you find that, okay, we are not able to do this, then instead of keeping it in FG form, what I would recommend, without understanding more about your business, I'll have to understand more about your business. If you have standard raw materials, then you can look at what raw materials should we keep in stock. You can also identify what raw materials I don't want to keep in stock. Have those agreements with your suppliers that they will be providing it to you as you need it. I'm not talking about a just-in-time inventory. You also have that clear agreement with your suppliers. Many times there are certain items which are available easily in stock at traders, but we do not purchase from them because the cost is higher. People tell all kind of story, quality nahi milti, ye nahi milti, wo nahi milti, but ultimately we know very well that when there is a shortage, when there is a stock out, we buy from traders, we get the same quality, it's just a higher price. Right. So you have to establish some of those things. These are some of the questions which you need to answer. And ultimately, TOC is not a magic pill. Anupam, the question that you have to answer is, look, what are the pains that we have today? So let's say your pain is you're not able to deliver on time. You have stockouts of raw materials. Look at those pains. Then we will see where is it that TOC can help you. Rather than just implementing TOC because, Tata Steel has done it. Tata Steel has had very good results. So we want to take it to all our businesses. Every business could be different. I don't see any reason why it could not be implemented. But at this point of time, I do not know.
Right, I do agree with you. And we have 3 verticals. Yeah, we have 3 verticals. One of the vertical, it was the standard material and we were about to implement and we did it also. And it was working. But the other verticals, we missed it because those were absolutely, each order was different.
Yeah, so maybe before you look at doing any of this, you should focus on strengthening some of the vendor relationships there. You can also look at having more standard agreements with your customers. If maybe those are some of the areas where you can work. And also in a make to order environment, which is a 100% make to order environment, one of the solutions that where TOC helps is, you have probably seen the solution for stock items, which is dynamic buffer management. Here we actually, all we do is we look at the scheduling. So let's say if an order has to go for production on 15th February, you define a full kit date for that, and then you try to get everything well in time before that. So if the order has to go for production on 15th February, let's say we decide that we should get everything in time by 14th. Now 14th may be cutting it too short, right? Too close. So you define a buffer that instead of 14, okay, let me target getting material in by 9th of February. So 9th to 14th becomes your buffer, right? So you don't keep material in stock as per those SKU norms. You just make sure that you are keeping a buffer and getting your full kit. You keep a full kit buffer. Okay, and again, you can, I'm assuming you are familiar with the red, yellow, green zone. You can monitor buffer management on the full kit itself rather than at an SKU level.
Well agreed. Well agreed.
Okay, so this is the direction of the solution. You can, just some points for you to think about, and you can connect with me via LinkedIn, or I'll also share my email and everything with Asmita, and she can reach out.
Appreciate, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Asmita, so I think we can close now, and I will share the materials with you. You can circulate it to the participants.
Certainly, ma'am. Thank you so much. We have Amitabh Bhattacharya, Secretary JMA, joined in. So I would like to request Amitabh sir to please share his remarks.
Yeah, hi, Ira.
Tab.
And first of all, thanks for taking out time. Sorry, I couldn't join from the beginning, but I followed the last part, the Q&A. I think it was very useful and insightful. I thank you for taking out time for this session. I think good number of people joined because it was a very specific topic, and I think around 30 people I see has joined this. So we look forward. I think I would request all the participants, whoever have further interest on TOC may write to Ashmita and let us know. We can carve out some program and later date and discuss with Ira and come out maybe, which may be a longer sessions, and we will do that maybe. So I think that's something which is way forward on this. Maybe all the participants can reach out to Ashmita wherever there's an interest on further taking it forward. So thank you, Ira. I think
yeah, thank you so much, Amitabh.
JMA, it was pleasure hosting you on the JMA platform. I will look forward to more sessions from you as and when. You touched a very important topic, cash flows, which is very important for any organization. I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amitabh. Thank you, Asmita, and thank you everyone for taking out the time. Bye-bye.
And thanks, Ashmita and the teams at JMA, which worked behind the scenes. Thanks all participants, I think, for joining.
Thank you. Nice presentation. Keep in touch sometime now. This is Guru from Data Blue Scope.
Okay,
Bye. Take care.
You. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. I've shared a feedback link in the chat box. Please share your valuable feedback. And for more upcoming sessions, please follow JMA on all the social media platforms. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye. Take care.